The rain outside was falling heavily, as if trying to wash away all the filth in the capital. The heavy redwood door of the Bow family's old mansion was tightly shut, and the cold fragrance inside the house, mixed with a faint hint of medicinal scent, was suffocatingly oppressive. I was sitting on the golden Nanmu sofa, facing my husband, Bo Yensi. He was dressed in a smoke-gray tailored suit, the cuffs buttoned tightly, exuding an aloof and desolate aura that kept others at a distance. His face was exceptionally handsome, cold and proud, like a jade Buddha that would never be moved by emotion. Yet, just 3 minutes ago, this very Buddha had personally pushed a divorce agreement toward me. On top of the agreement lay a check, the string of zeros on it dizzying to the eyes. 1 billion. Bo Yensi spoke, his voice as cold as shattering ice against porcelain. Shen Qingju, this is your compensation. You've done well these 3 years, but Wanwan is back. She's in poor health and can't handle any stress. I stared at the check, my fingertips lightly tracing the cold surface of the desk. Lin Wn, his first love, the white moonlight that had resided in his heart for 10 years. The moment she returned, my 3 years of warmth, kindness, respect, and restraint became the most ironic joke. Wanwan said she doesn't mind you taking the child. After all, the heir of the Bo family can't have a divorced mother. Seeing my silence, Bo Yensi slightly furrowed his brows, his tone carrying a condescending calmness. This money is enough for you and Nyen Nyen to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. If you feel it's not enough, you can name your terms. Just then, his phone, placed on the desk, vibrated, and the screen lit up with a video call request. He answered almost instinctively, the coldness in his eyes instantly melting into a pool of tender affection on the screen. Lin Wn looked pale and weak, leaning against the hospital bed, her voice as faint as a whisper. Yensi, have you talked it over with Sister Qingju? Actually, I can step back. I don't want to see you divorce because of me. I just wanted to see you one last time before I die. Don't talk nonsense. Bo Yensi's voice was so gentle it felt unfamiliar to me. You'll get better. I'm already handling it. Watching this scene, I realized my heart wasn't breaking as I had expected. Perhaps over these 3 years, I had already exhausted what little warmth remained in this cold Bo family. Qingju. Please don't blame Yensi. Lin Wn turned the camera, her tear-filled eyes looking at me. I know you love him, but I really don't have much time left. I raised my head, meeting Bo Yensi's scrutinizing gaze, and suddenly curved my lips into a smile. I reached out, picked up the Mont Blanc pen, and elegantly signed Shen Qingju at the end of the agreement. The strokes were sharp and forceful, as if carved into the paper. Signed. I pushed the agreement back and casually picked up the 10 billion check. In front of them, I slowly tucked it into the slit at the side of my cheongsam, pressing it against the skin near the top of my thigh. The movement carried an indescribable air of provocation and icy elegance. Shen Qingju, you. Bo Yensi clearly hadn't expected me to be so straightforward. Without even a hint of reluctance, since Mr. Bo is so generous, it would seem hypocritical of me to refuse any further. I stood up, smoothing the wrinkles on my cheongsam, and looked down at him. 10 billion to buy out 3 years of my youth and Nyen Nyen's custody. This deal is a loss for you, Mr. Bo. What do you mean? Bo Yensi's eyes darkened. I mean, from now on, I find the position of Mrs. Bo rather dirty. I turned my head to look at Lin Wn, whose face had stiffened on the screen, and smiled even more brightly. Miss Lin, I wish you a long life. After all, the air in the Bo family is quite suffocating. I'm afraid you might stop breathing before you even settle in properly. Shen Qingju, mind your place. My mother-in-law, seated at the head of the table, finally couldn't hold back. She slammed her teacup down heavily, her well-maintained face filled with disgust. If it weren't for your auspicious birth chart back then, which was believed to bring good fortune to Yensi, do you think someone from your fallen family could have ever entered the Bo household? Take the money and get out of here. Don't you dare curse Wanwan. I looked at this mother-in-law whom I had served diligently for the past 3 years. She despised my background and looked down on me for only staying at home to care for my husband and child. Yet, she had no idea whose efforts were behind the Bo family's narrow escapes from disaster over the years. Mom, don't worry, I'll leave right away. I turned around and met Bo Yensi's probing gaze. Where is Nyen Nyen? He's sleeping on the 2nd floor. The driver will take you tomorrow. No need, I cut him off. I'm taking him with me. Now, it's pouring outside. Bo Yensi frowned. No matter how heavy the rain, it's better than staying in this house full of filth. I headed upstairs without looking back. Just as I stepped onto the stairs, Bo Yensi suddenly called out to me, "Shin Qingju, you'll regret leaving the Bo family." My footsteps paused slightly. I turned my face halfway, half of it hidden in the shadows, a breathtaking curve lifting the corner of my mouth. "Bo Yensi, I suggest you save the word regret for yourself in the future." I went upstairs and pushed open Nyan Nyan's door. The 5-year-old child wasn't actually asleep at all. He sat by the edge of the bed, a small backpack on his back, holding the little bear I had given him in his arms. His pair of dark, bright eyes were calm in a way that didn't seem like a child's. "Mom, are we leaving now?" he asked softly. Let's go start a new life." I took his hand. "Does Daddy not want us anymore?" "No." I crouched down, looking seriously into my son's eyes. "Mommy doesn't want him anymore." Xiao Nyan nodded, not crying or making a fuss, just understandingly tightened his grip on my hand. When I led Nyan Nyan back to the living room, Bo Yensi was still sitting in the same position. He watched the two of us, one big and one small, with a complicated look in his eyes. Perhaps in his view, as a dodder flower clinging to him for survival, I would be crying and begging for mercy within 3 days of leaving his shelter. I walked to the main entrance and abruptly pulled open the heavy wooden door. A fierce wind carrying torrential rain instantly rushed toward me, soaking the hem of my cheongsam. I didn't open an umbrella, only fastened Nyan Nyan's raincoat properly. "Qingju." Bo Yensi had somehow appeared behind me, holding a black umbrella in his hand, his voice still cool and detached. "The rain is heavy outside. Let the driver take you to the nearby apartment. I've also transferred that property under your name." I turned back, looking at his confident and assured demeanor, feeling nothing but irony. "Bo Yensi, keep that house for you and Lin Wn to use as your wedding home." I took a car key from my bag and pressed the lock button on the lawn outside the old mansion. A low-key black car that had been parked with its engine off suddenly lit up its headlights. The doors opened, and 2 bodyguards in black suits, exuding a stern and imposing presence, strode over holding large black umbrellas, precisely shielding me and Nyan Nyan from above. One of them bowed and took Nyan Nyan's school bag, speaking respectfully. "Miss, the master has been waiting for you for a long time." Bo Yensi's hand, which had reached out to hold an umbrella, froze in midair, his pupils suddenly contracting. "Miss, which Miss Shen?" I didn't offer him any explanation, simply taking Nyan Nyan's hand and walking into the curtain of rain. The water cascaded down the edges of the bodyguard's umbrella, like a curtain separating the old world. Before getting into the car, I turned around, meeting Bo Yensi's uncertain, startled gaze, and calmly dropped a line. "Mr. Bo, I'll keep this 1 billion on the books. In the future, I'll pay you back double." The car door slammed shut, the roar of the engine tearing through the night. From the rearview mirror, I saw Bo Yensi standing alone under the eaves, the black umbrella in his hand fallen to the ground, letting the rain soak his suit, and Lin Wn, who played the fragile role on screen, was probably gritting her teeth in frustration at that moment. "This was just the beginning, Bo Yensi. Do you think you've lost an obedient wife? No, you've lost the only chance of survival you'll ever have in this lifetime." At 3 a.m, the Bo family's mountaintop villa should have been enveloped in complete silence. Instead, it was brightly lit, with the roar of engines and the dull thuds of heavy objects being moved shattering the tranquility of the entire mountainside. When Bo Yensi pushed open the door to his home, he was met with an absurd sight. Dozens of professional movers in matching uniforms were methodically clearing out the living room, like worker ants on a mission. "Shin Qingju, what are you doing?" Bo Yensi's voice was laced with bone-chilling coldness. He had just returned from comforting Lin Wn at the hospital, his suit still carrying the faint scent of disinfectant. His brows were now tightly furrowed into a knot. I was sitting at the dining table, a steaming bowl of bird's nest soup in front of me, a checklist in hand, marking off items without even looking up. Hearing his voice, I gracefully set down my spoon, turned to him, and offered a faint smile. "Mr. Bo, you've returned just in time. Take a look and see if anything's been missed. We can take care of it all at once. I'm asking you what these people are doing." He strode over and snatched the list from my hand. Moving, I stood up, pointing to the half-empty antique shelf. "These were personally bought by me at Sotheby's auction house. In the first year of my marriage, the curtains over there were custom-made lace from Lyon, ordered through a contact, and the 3,000 Juliet roses in the yard were planted by me, hole by hole. These are all my personal belongings. Taking them with me is perfectly reasonable, isn't it? Bo Yensi was so angry he laughed, a flicker of rage dancing in his cold eyes. I've already given you 10 billion, and you're here quibbling over a few rags and some potted flowers. Shen Qingju, when did you become so vulgar? I let out a light laugh, circling him once. The sound of my high heels echoed crisply on the empty marble floor. Bo Yensi, in your eyes, these are just rags, but to me, they represent the care I poured into a dead person. Since the person is dead, of course I'm taking these burial items with me, so they don't stay here and disgust me. Shen Qingju, he shouted sternly, a clear sign of his impending anger. Just then, several workers approached carrying a chainsaw. The butler jogged over with a troubled expression. Sir, the madam says, she wants to pry up the Brazilian rosewood floor in the master bedroom as well. Bo Yensi's face instantly darkened with fury. Even the floor? Have you lost your mind? That floor was the color I chose, and I personally oversaw the workers laying it. I don't want my taste ruined by some latecomer sickly weakling. Ignoring his murderous glare, I directed the workers, pry it up, don't leave a single piece. As for the empty space left behind, Mr. Bo has plenty of money if you want to pave it with gold bricks. That's up to you. Bo Yensi stared at me coldly, as if seeing me for the first time. The gentle woman who used to leave a light on for him late at night, who would stand by the stove for hours making porridge when his stomach hurt, she had vanished without a trace. In her place stood a stranger, covered in thorns, with eyes full of mockery. Where do you think you'll put all this stuff? He sneered. In that old Shen family mansion that's already bankrupt, in debt, and has its doors sealed shut. Shen Qingju, drop that ridiculous pride of yours, take the money and buy a decent apartment. Don't drag Nian Nian into sleeping on the streets. No need for you to worry about that, President Bo. I walked up to him and reached out to straighten his slightly crooked tie. He instinctively tried to pull away, but I held him firmly in place, leaning close to his ear. My breath was as gentle as an orchid, but my voice was as cold as a venomous snake. Bo Yensi, I'm not just taking these things, I'm taking all the life out of this house. I want you to feel that, hollowed out cold every single second you live here from now on. What exactly are you trying to prove? He pushed my hand away in disgust. Prove that you are unworthy of any of my efforts. I turned my head and called toward the second floor. Nyan Nyan, are you ready? Bo Xiaonian was dressed in a neat little suit, carrying a backpack printed with dinosaur patterns, and holding a teddy bear in his arms as he steadily descended the stairs. When he passed by Bo Yensi, he didn't even pause his steps. Nyan Nyan, Bo Yensi called out to him, his voice somewhat dry. Are you going to join your mother in making a scene? Xiaonian stopped in his tracks, looked up, and his phoenix-like eyes, which closely resembled Bo Yensi's, were filled with detachment. Dad, the book says, those who follow different paths cannot work together. Since you've chosen that always ill aunt, Mom, and I won't disturb you anymore, a 5-year-old child, with logic so clear it's startling. Bo Yensi was left speechless, and before he could say anything, a sharp screech of brakes sounded outside the door. Lin Wn, disregarding the doctor's orders, appeared at the entrance wearing a loose hospital gown and a thin coat, her face pale, as soon as she entered the room and saw the mess and the workers prying up the floorboards. She froze for a moment, then her eyes quickly reddened. Yensi, what's going on? She leaned weakly into Bo Yensi's arms, pointing at the packed vases, her voice trembling. Sister Qingju, if you're unhappy because of me, I can leave, but please don't tear this home apart. This is 3 years of memories between you and Yensi. I watched her performance coldly. Miss Lin, if you really want to leave, just turn right out the door and head down the mountain. No one will stop you. Since you can't bear to go, then shut your mouth. These things are mine, and I can smash them or take them away as I please. Since you love picking through trash so much, you should be prepared to live in a dump. Sister Qingju, how can you say such things? Lin Wn pretended to faint. Bo Yensi supported her, looking at me with utter disappointment. Shen Qingju, was all your kindness in the past just an act? Wanwan is in poor health. Do you have to be so harsh? Yes, it was all an act. I openly admitted it, walking up to Lin Wn and staring at her scheming face. Lin WN, I'm tired of playing this 3-year-long act, since you love playing the savior. This cold, flawless, curtainless, garden-dug-up Bow family is all yours to fill. Oh, and one more thing. I pulled a pair of pruning shears from my bag and, with a sharp snip, cut through the last pot of expensive orchids placed in the entryway. This pot of flowers was saved by my own hands. Since I can't take it with me, I'd rather it die. Lin WN let out a frightened scream and hid in Bow Yensi's arms. Bow Yensi clenched his fists tightly, his knuckles turning white from the force. He looked at me, a flicker of panic flashing deep in his eyes. When he didn't even notice himself, he thought I had gone mad. This near-destructive act of letting go made him feel a sense of uncontrollable fear. Shen Qingju, you'll regret this. Without the backing of the Bow family, you won't even get a ticket into this circle. Bow Yensi gritted his teeth as he issued his final ultimatum. I ignored him, simply taking the wet wipe handed to me by a worker, leisurely wiping the dirt from my hands, then taking Nyan Nyan's hand and striding toward the car parked outside the gate. Mr. Bow, I forgot to tell you. Standing by the car door, I turned back with a smile, dazzlingly brilliant in the morning light. I don't want a ticket, because I am the rules themselves. The black car sped away, taking with it the last trace of warmth from the Bow family's mountaintop villa. Bow Yensi stood in the empty living room, surrounded by the chaotic traces left by the workers' dismantling. He looked down to see a gaping hole in the floorboards at his feet, revealing the grey cement beneath, cold and glaring for some reason. His heart suddenly clenched violently, as if a piece of it had been snipped away by those pruning shears too. The third day after the divorce was the graduation ceremony of St. Mary's International Kindergarten. This was the arena of Beijing's top elite, where even a kindergarten ceremony saw a lineup of Rolls-Royces and Bentleys with consecutive license plates parked at the entrance. I changed into a dark green silk cheongsam, my long hair pinned up with only a cool, smooth mutton-fat jade hairpin, exuding an air of aloofness and refined elegance, as if all worldly glamour had been washed away. Mom, are you nervous? Nyan Nyan sat in the back seat, smoothing out the wrinkles on his suit with his small hands, his tone as calm as a little adult. No, it's others who should be nervous, I chuckled softly, adjusting his bow tie for him. When we walked into the auditorium, the noisy crowd fell silent for a moment. Those wealthy socialites who had always maintained a polite facade with me now had eyes filled with curiosity and mockery. The news of Bow Yensi's divorce had spread faster than light in this circle. In their eyes, I, the discarded wife who had been kicked out with just a bit of severance pay, should have been hiding at home crying my eyes out, not showing up at such a glamorous event. Oh, isn't this Mrs. Bow? Oh wait, it's Miss Shen, right? The speaker was Mrs. Wang, who never missed a chance to flaunt her modest wealth in front of me. I heard you made quite a scene when you moved, even tearing up the floorboards. What? The $1 billion check hasn't even warmed up yet, and you're already starting to live frugally. A faint ripple of laughter echoed around. I stopped in my tracks, my gaze sweeping coldly over her face, my tone flat. Mrs. Wang is very well informed. Indeed, I don't like leaving things I've used to those who are less than clean. But you, Mrs. Wang, I heard your husband recently bought that new riverside apartment, and the decor is exactly the same as your master bedroom. It seems he's truly devoted to the family. Mrs. Wang's face instantly turned deathly pale. Everyone knew her husband was keeping a college student who looked just like her on the side. It was her sore spot. Just then, a commotion arose at the entrance. Bow Yensi had arrived. He was still dressed in all black, as cold and aloof as an ice sculpture, though a trace of weariness lingered between his brows, impossible to conceal, and in the crook of his arm, he held Lin WN, delicate as a willow swaying in the wind. Lin WN wore a pure white haute couture gown, which made her pale face appear even more pitiable, like a white lotus on the verge of withering at any moment. Yensi, are we too late? Lin WN whispered, but her gaze provocatively settled on me upon seeing me. Bow Yensi's steps faltered slightly. He probably hadn't expected me to be dressed so dazzlingly, and the composure radiating from within left the sarcasm he had prepared stuck in his throat. Shen Qingju, you shouldn't have brought Nian Nian to an occasion like this. Bow Yensi approached, his voice low and filled with reproach. Do you have any idea how many reporters are outside, waiting to catch the Bow family in a scandal? Mr. Bow, let me correct This is now my life with Nyan Nyan, and it has nothing to do with the Bo family. I didn't even spare Lin Wn a glance after the ceremony began. The most important part was the presentation of the family heritage honor. As per tradition, the Bo Group, being the school's largest sponsor, required Bo Yentse to personally award Nyan Nyan an educational fund equity symbolizing the heir's status. When Bo Yentse stood on stage with the documents and announced into the microphone, Bo Xiaonian, as the future successor of the Bo family, will receive a reward of 3% of the family's original shares, the entire audience erupted in applause. Lin Wn sat in the audience, her nails digging deeply into her palms, yet she wore a saintly smile on her face. She even took out an expensive Patek Philippe children's watch from her bag, making a move as if to go on stage. Xiaonian, this is a graduation gift from Auntie Lin. From now on, we are family, and Auntie will take good care of you in place of your mother. Lin Wan gently approached Nian Nian. Speaking before Bo Yentse could, Nian Nian stood at the center of the stage, neither reaching for the invaluable equity document nor glancing at the luxury watch in Lin Wan's hand. He took the microphone, his voice clear and resounding, echoing through every corner of the auditorium. Mr. Bo, I refuse to accept this equity. The entire hall fell into dead silence. Bo Yentse's face instantly turned extremely unpleasant. Xiao Nyan, don't be unreasonable. Do you know what this means? I know, Nyan. Nyan raised her head, her small face, which bore a striking resemblance to Bo Yentse's, full of stubbornness. This means I have to accept your values, accept your behavior of betraying the family for a woman who only knows how to cry. The book says, those who do not share the same aspirations cannot be friends. Since you think money can buy everything, then you should keep this money for Auntie Lin's treatment. After all, she seems to be very ill, so much so that she can't even stand steadily. Phut! Someone in the audience couldn't help but laugh. Lin Wn froze in place, unsure whether to withdraw or keep her outstretched hand. The smile on her face was uglier than crying. And this Auntie Lin? Nian Nian turned around, his dark, bright eyes fixed on Lin Wn. My mom taught me not to take things from strangers, especially this kind of cheap trick trying to bribe a child. It's really low. I've already donated the Lego sets you sent to my school yesterday to the orphanage. Please stop trying to act like my mother. You don't deserve that word. Lin Wan's face turned from pale to ashen, then flushed red, her whole body swaying unsteadily. Yentse, I just wanted to win over Nian Nian. Enough, Bo Yentse said in a low, sharp tone. He looked at Nian Nian, and for the first time, a genuine sense of defeat flickered in his eyes. The power and wealth he took such pride in had, in the eyes of his 5-year-old son, become nothing more than garbage to be avoided. I slowly walked onto the stage and, under the gaze of the crowd, took Nian Nian's hand. Mr. Bo, it seems your legacy is something Nyan Nyan doesn't care for at all. I looked at Bo Yentse, my eyes filled with pity. He doesn't need your shares because he has me. And what I give him is something you will never understand in this lifetime. Shen Qingju, what exactly have you taught him? Bo Yentse gritted his teeth, his eyes dark and intense. I taught him what integrity means. With Nyan Nyan by my side, I strode confidently down from the stage and out of the auditorium, under the complex gazes of the crowd. Behind her, Lin Wn, unable to bear the pointing and whispering of the crowd, feebly fainted into Bo Yentse's arms. This time, however, Bo Yentse did not immediately lower his head to comfort her. Instead, he stared intently at the retreating figures of me and Nyan Nyan. He finally realized that the family he had once manipulated at will, the woman and child he thought could be placated with money alone, were now completely breaking away from his life in a devastating manner. And this was only the beginning of what he was about to lose. In the second week after the divorce, the most exclusive charity auction banquet in Beijing's business world kicked off at the Four Seasons Hotel. The scale of this banquet was exceptionally high, with invitations being extremely difficult to obtain. In the past, as Mrs. Bo, I always stood half a step behind Bo Yentse, suppressing all my sharp edges, merely serving as a competent backdrop. But today, when that custom-made Rolls-Royce with the consecutive numbered Shen license plate stopped at the end of the red carpet, all the long and short lenses focused on the car door, I stepped out of the car in 10-centimeter red-soled high heels. A deep purple retro sequined fishtail dress outlined my figure with a bewitching, soul-stealing allure, while the large expanse of exposed skin on my back gleamed brilliantly under the flashlights. Shun Qingju, someone in the crowd exclaimed in surprise. Those noble women who had once mocked me for leaving with nothing at the kindergarten ceremony were now rubbing their eyes vigorously, their faces filled with disbelief. Bo Yanxi has also arrived. He is wearing an exquisite dark black suit today. With Lin Wn still clinging to his side, Lin Wn is dressed in a pink and white strapless dress, trying to create a sense of purity that rises above the mud without being stained, however. In the face of my overwhelmingly powerful purple dress, she looks like a small-town beauty who can't hold her own on a grand stage, instantly overshadowed and appearing bland as water. The moment Bo Yanxi saw me, his pupils suddenly contracted, for the first time, a hint of what could be called or flickered in his usually cold eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a chilling frost. Shun Qingju, who allowed you to come here? He strode over, blocking my path, his voice low and filled with warning. The guests here are either wealthy or noble. This is not a place for you to squander that 1 billion, Mr. Bo. That's an interesting thing to say. I casually swayed the crocodile skin handbag in my hand, glancing at him sideways. This place is open for business. Does it discriminate based on who you are? Or does Mr. Bo think that without you, I can't even step through the hotel's front door? Qingju, don't misunderstand Yanxi, Lin Wn interjected softly, though a flicker of jealousy was hidden in her eyes. Yanxi is just worried about you. I heard you've been trying to break into this circle lately, reaching out to headhunters everywhere for introductions. If you're short on money, you can always talk to me. There's no need to put on such a brave face. I laughed, a bold and unrestrained laugh that drew the attention of many influential figures around us. Miss Lin, if you're sick, go see a doctor. Don't stand here making assumptions about other people's backgrounds. Me, putting on a brave face. I stopped laughing and looked at her coldly. Does the heir of the Shun Group need to find someone to introduce her to enter a hotel owned by her own family? As soon as these words were spoken, the entire room erupted in an uproar. The Shun Group. Which Shun is that, fool? Besides the Southern Shun, who's been in seclusion for 20 years and holds over half of the domestic semiconductor patents, which other Shun family could it be? Bo Yanxi's expression instantly turned incredibly dramatic, a crack appearing in his cool and aloof facade. The Shun Group. You're from the Southern Shun. No, I'm not from the Southern Shun. I leaned closer to him, looking into his shocked eyes, and said word by word, I am the current chairman of the Shun Group, Shun Qingju. At that moment, the hotel's general manager, accompanied by a group of senior executives, hurried out from the inner area with a mix of anxiety and reverence, in full view of everyone. They bowed in unison to me and said, Chairman Shun, your private room is ready. The technical team sent by the former chairman has also arrived, awaiting your presence to preside over tonight's project signing ceremony. I gave a slight nod and, without even glancing at Bo Yanxi, who stood frozen in place, walked straight into the inner area. The highlight of the banquet was the announcement by the Shun Group of a new chip technology partnership recruitment program called Dawn. This was the core resource that all the wealthy families, including the Bo Group, were vying for tonight. Bo Yanxi sat in the front row, watching the figure slowly emerging on the large screen. I had changed into a crisp white suit and stood under the spotlight, holding a remote control. With a casual smile, I directed the flow of profits worth tens of billions. He remembered, in the 3 years of their marriage, he had worked countless late nights in his study. Whenever he encountered an algorithm problem he couldn't solve, a note with a solution would inexplicably appear on his desk. He had always thought it was his secretary who had sought out an expert to write it, never imagining that it was his wife, the one he believed was only good for arranging flowers and tending plants, casually jotting down guidance. Chairman Shun, the Bo Group has requested a private meeting with you. My secretary whispered beside me. I sat on the leather sofa in the lounge, taking a sip of red wine. The door opened, and Bo Yanxi walked in alone. The pride on his face had completely shattered, replaced by a complex struggle. Shun Qingju, you've kept me in the dark for so long, he said as he approached me, his voice hoarse. Since you're the one in charge of the Shun Group, why did you marry me? Why pretend to be a helpless housewife? Because I was blind back then. Thinking that a man like Bo Yentzi was worth me lowering myself to love, I set down the wine glass, my gaze icy. But it turns out, even if you feed pearls to a pig, the pig will only find them hard to chew. Chingju, about the divorce, he tried to step forward. President Bo, in a professional setting, please address me as Chairman Shen. I pressed the intercom, my voice cold. Security, President Bo has entered the wrong room. Please escort him out. Shen Chingju. The door was pushed open, and 4 black-clad bodyguards stood like iron towers blocking Bo Yentzi's path. Mr. Bo, please. The bodyguard's gesture was firm. Bo Yentzi stood at the doorway, watching my cold and resolute back, and the tide of regret in his heart finally began to surge wildly. He had always thought of me as a clinging morning glory, withering without him, but he never realized that he was the one who had been living under the shelter of my wings, unaware of his own weakness. Meanwhile, in the corridor outside, the socialites who had once sneered at me were now trembling as they waited, trying to secure an invitation to the Shen family's evening banquet. I pushed the door open, walked past without a glance, leaving only a trace of cold, lingering fragrance in the air. This is what it means to be hit by a higher-dimensional strike. In the conference room at the top of the Shen Group building, the floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the most bustling CBD scenery in the capital. Sunlight streamed in, reflecting sharp glints off the cold marble tabletop. Today was the final round of bidding for the Shen Group's Dawn Chip project. The Bo Group, having lost me as their inside ally, was now trapped in an unprecedented technological bottleneck and desperately needed this project to survive. I sat in the main seat, flipping through the bidding documents in my hand. The door opened, and Bo Yentzi walked in with his core team. In just a week, he had visibly lost weight, with unmistakable dark circles under his eyes. Following him was Lin WN, dressed in professional attire, barely holding her composure. Rumor had it that Bo Yentzi had made an exception to bring her into the Bo Group's project team to appease her. Chairman Shen, this is Bo Corporation's final proposal. Bo Yentzi pushed the document toward me, his voice still cool, but lacking the usual confidence. I casually flipped through a couple of pages before tossing it aside, producing a dull thud. President Bo, are you here to joke with me? I crossed my legs, a hint of mockery curling at the corner of my mouth. The core algorithm logic is chaotic, and energy consumption control is completely over the limit. How dare you bring such a third-rate proposal to bid for Shen Corporation? Bo Yentzi's expression stiffened. The technical director beside him broke into a cold sweat, bowing his head without daring to speak. Chingju, you can't say that. Lin WN couldn't help but speak up, her voice tinged with urgency. This proposal was something our team worked on for 3 sleepless nights. While there is indeed room for optimization in energy consumption, the Bo family's advantage in market share is something the Shen family cannot ignore. You can't just dismiss all our efforts because of personal grudges. Personal grudges. I looked up at Lin WN, my gaze sharp. MS. Lin, in business, we talk business. You bring out something that even borders on excessive borrowing from a proposal the Shen family discarded 6 months ago, and I haven't directly reported you for stealing trade secrets. That's already my last act of mercy. As for the so-called market share, I pressed the remote in my hand, and a set of dynamic curves instantly appeared on the large screen. Just now, the Shen family has completed a hostile takeover of 3 of the Bo family's core upstream and downstream suppliers. Right now, the Bo family's raw material supply has been cut off. Mr. Bo, how many more days do you think your market share can hold out? Bo Yentzi suddenly stood up, slamming his palm heavily on the table, causing the teacup to clatter loudly. Shen Chingju, have you lost your mind? Those 3 suppliers are the lifeblood of the Bo Group. This is a move that hurts the enemy 1,000 but damages yourself 800. Damaging myself 800, I chuckled softly, rising to my feet and walking over to him. My fingertips lightly traced the collar of his suit, sending a chill through the air. I haven't even finished spending that 1 billion yuan check yet. Using your money to buy your life, this deal is quite a bargain. The atmosphere in the meeting room instantly dropped to freezing point. Several shareholders of the Bo Group could no longer sit still, whispering among themselves. Their gazes toward Bo Yentzi now carried a mix of doubt and resentment. President Bo, Chairman Shen is right. Without the raw materials, all our upcoming orders will be in breach of contract. Yes, President Bo, Shun Corporation's technology is 2 generations ahead of ours now. If we keep fighting, Bo Corporation will be finished. Shut up, Bo Yensi snapped sharply, his gaze fixed intently on me. In his eyes, there was anger, shock, and even a hint of confusion he himself was unwilling to acknowledge. Shen Qingju, do you really have to be this ruthless? Ruthless? I raised an eyebrow and turned to look out the window. Back then, when I spent half a month in the lab to save Bo Corporation's overseas market and nearly had a miscarriage, where were you? Oh, right, you were celebrating Lin Wan's birthday abroad because she said she was afraid of thunder. Bo Yensi's pupils suddenly contracted. That was a secret he had never noticed before. He had always thought the child's departure was just an accident. Now, I'm just taking back everything that belongs to me. I withdrew my gaze and looked coldly at Lin Wn. Miss Lin, don't you love the title of Mrs. Bo? Good. You'll have it soon, however. It might be the title of Mrs. Bo from a debt-ridden family on the verge of bankruptcy. Lin Wan's face turned as pale as a sheet of paper. She instinctively reached for Bo Yensi's sleeve. Yensi, she must be trying to scare us. How could the Bo family possibly go bankrupt? Bo Yensi didn't pay her any attention. He just looked at me, as if trying to find a trace of the gentle wife I once was in my face. But all he saw was a deep, unfathomable, icy abyss. That concludes today's meeting. I straightened my clothes and instructed my secretary, add the Bo Group to the blacklist. All patents under the Shun Group are to be permanently prohibited from being licensed to the Bo Group. Shen Qingju, Bo Yensi's voice roared behind me. I walked out of the conference room without looking back. As the heavy door closed, I heard the sound of something shattering inside. Along with Lin Wan's sharp cries, this is only the first step. I want him to witness with his own eyes how the business empire he prides himself on will crumble inch by inch because of his arrogance and betrayal. He once thought he could settle everything with money. Now, I want him to understand that in this world, there are some things he can never redeem, even if he loses everything. At the top floor of the Capital Art Center, a private art exhibition titled Graceful as a Startled Swan is being held. Lin Wn truly lives up to her reputation as a master of acting. At a time when the Bo Group is deeply mired in trouble, she managed to persuade Bo Yensi to organize this grand art exhibition for her, attempting to salvage the Bo Group's increasingly tarnished reputation by portraying herself as a talented woman. I pushed open the heavy exhibition hall door, and the soothing sound of a cello flowed out. Lin Wn, dressed in a simple yet elegant modified cheongsam, stood surrounded by a group of art critics, smiling gently and charmingly. Bo Yensi stood not far away, holding a glass of champagne, his cool gaze darkening sharply the moment he saw me appear. Shen Qingju, if you're here to cause trouble, leave now. Bo Yensi strode over, his voice cold and devoid of any warmth. You're overthinking it, Mr. Bo. I'm just here to admire the works of the genius painter. I casually lit a slender lady's cigarette, but before the security guard could step forward to stop me, I casually extinguished it in the expensive decorative flower pot by the door. I walked straight to the centerpiece of the exhibition hall, Light of the Deep Sea. It was a deep blue seascape painted with bold, sweeping brushstrokes, and the handling of light and shadow in the painting was incredibly spirited. As if light truly pierced through the surface of the sea. Does Qingju also understand painting? Lin Wn approached gracefully, her tone laced with undisguised pride. I painted this during my most desperate days while recuperating abroad. Yensi said he saw my soul in this painting. Soul? I chuckled softly and turned to look at the critics who were showering it with praise. Everyone, do you truly believe the soul of this painting belongs to Miss Lin? The room fell silent for a moment. A veteran critic frowned and said, Ms. Shen, artistic creation is a very personal matter. Ms. Lin's brushwork is delicate and full of tension. This is widely recognized in the industry. Is that so? I pulled a stack of old draft papers from my bag and casually scattered them. The snow-white sheets fluttered down like butterflies onto the cold floor. Then perhaps everyone should take a look at these. 3 years ago, in the attic of the Bo family's old mansion, these original drafts that Ms. Lin referenced all bear my personal seal. Shen Qingzhou's, Bo Yensi's expression instantly changed. He quickly bent down and picked up one of the draft papers. On it, the initial concept of Light of the Deep Sea was clearly outlined: the composition, perspective, and even the most crucial touch of orange-red light were meticulously annotated with detailed color schemes. The date on it was from 4 years ago. This is impossible, Lynn WN screamed, her face as pale as paper. She frantically tried to snatch the papers away. These are just discarded drafts I threw away. Shin Qingju, you stole my sketches. Stole. I took a step closer to her, the sound of my high heels echoing with a chilling intensity in the silent exhibition hall. Lin WN, you seem to have forgotten. The light in your painting uses a special mineral pigment, a patented formula exclusive to the Shun laboratory. Under ultraviolet light, this pigment reveals a unique fluorescent code, and this code can only be authorized for use at Shun Corporation by the original artist of this painting, which is me. I gave a signal. My secretary, who had been waiting outside the door, immediately stepped forward with a professional UV light and shone it directly onto the painting. Light of the deep sea. Under the blue-purple light, in the lower right corner of the painting, the area that Lin WN had painted over and reworked slowly revealed a clear, flowing cursive signature, SQZ. It was the abbreviation for Shin Qingju. The entire venue erupted in an uproar. Plagiarism. This is blatant plagiarism. Stealing someone else's draft and paint. This is no talented woman. She's simply a thief. The critics' opinions instantly shifted, and the influential figures who had just been praising Lin WN now cast disdainful glances her way. Lin WN collapsed completely to the ground, clutching Bo Yensi's pant leg tightly, her face streaked with tears like a rain-soaked pear blossom. Yensi, please listen to me. I just loved you too much. I wanted to improve myself, to be worthy of you. I didn't mean to use her painting on purpose. Bo Yensi did not lower his head to help her up. He stared intently at the painting, then turned his gaze toward me, who remained calm and composed. He finally realized that for the past 3 years, he had thought I was just an ordinary person who only knew how to take care of his daily life. Little did he know that the paintings hanging in his study, which brought him peace of mind, and the artistic cultivation he boasted about to others all originated from me. And the person he cherished like a treasure, his so-called white moonlight, turned out to be a thief who would even steal someone's soul. Bo Yensi, how does it feel to be exposed like this? I leaned close to his ear, my voice so soft that only the two of us could hear. The taste you're so proud of. The old dreams you can't forget, they're all just trash I casually discarded, and you've been clinging to this trash for all these years. Shin Qingju, Bo Yensi's voice trembled, his usual aloofness shattered by overwhelming shame and self-doubt. Miss Lin, my legal team has already gathered evidence of your plagiarism of Shun Group's patented products. I clapped my hands and looked at the disheartened Lin WN. The Shun Group isn't short on money, so we won't accept a settlement. I wish you the best in spending the rest of your life searching for your soul amidst the gossip of courtrooms and prisons. I turned and walked away. Behind me were Lin Wan's heart-wrenching sobs and Bo Yensi's heavy sighs. Stepping out of the art center, the night wind was as cool as water. I looked up at the starry sky, and the pent-up frustration that had weighed on me for 3 years finally dissipated. This wasn't just revenge, this was me, Shin Qingju, reclaiming the dignity they had trampled upon with my own hands. On the VIP floor of Beijing Private Harmony Hospital, the corridor was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The air was filled with a faint scent of cedar incense, trying to mask the unsettling smell of disinfectant. Bo Yensi had been hospitalized. The consecutive blows, the Shun family's siege, and the heartache from seeing Lin Wan's true colors finally took a toll on his chronically overworked stomach. A severe gastric hemorrhage led to an emergency late-night hospital rescue, and this news spread like wildfire in the business world, even causing the Bo family's stock price to hit the limit down once again when I pushed open the door to another special care ward at the end of the corridor. I happened to see Bo Yensi, dressed in a hospital gown, his face pale as he leaned against the wall, trying to leave with the help of a caregiver. His ward was just diagonally across. The moment he saw me, a glimmer of light sparked in Bo Yensi's dull, grey eyes. Like a drowning person grasping at the last piece of driftwood, he pushed away the caregiver's hand and staggered toward me. Qingju, you still came. His voice was hoarse, the corner of his mouth curling into a self-mocking yet greedy arc. I knew it, you couldn't really be that heartless. In the past, when I had a stomachache, you would stay up all night. President Bo may have misunderstood. I stopped walking, my gaze as cold as if I were looking at a complete stranger. The Shin Group holds shares in this hospital. I'm here to visit one of my signed artists. Bo Yensi froze in place, the glimmer of hope that had just risen instantly extinguished just then. The door to the hospital room behind me opened. Lu Jingchuan, the top-tier male idol signed by the Shin Group at a high price, walked out. A band-aid was stuck to his forehead, a minor injury from filming an action scene yesterday. With one hand in his pocket, his youthful, vibrant face wore a hint of roguish charm as he naturally reached out and draped an arm over my shoulder. Sis, the doctor said if I don't treat this injury soon, it'll heal on its own. Why did you bother coming in person? Lu Jingchuan's voice was magnetic, tinged with a deliberate intimacy. I naturally reached out to support Lu Jingchuan's waist, giving him a doting smile. Shin Group's cash cow. Even if you lose a single strand of hair, I have to come check on you. How's your throat? Try a few notes. Don't let it affect next week's concert. For you, sis. I'd sing my heart out even if it cost me my life. Lu Jingchuan shot a provocative glance at Bo Yensi across the room, his smile radiant. Bo Yensi stared fixedly at the hand resting on my shoulder, his breathing growing rapid, veins bulging at his temples. Shin Qingju, even if you want to get back at me, you don't have to bring this actor to disgust me. An actor? I turned back, cutting him off coldly. Mr. Lu is worth billions, leads a clean personal life, and is dedicated to his work. Compared to some successful individuals who cheat on their spouses and are blind-hearted, he is far more valuable. Shin Qingju. Bo Yensi took a step forward, but a sharp pain in his stomach forced him to double over, sweat dripping from his temples onto the expensive floor. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. I was deceived about Wanwan's situation. Can you give me another chance? As long as you're willing to come back, I can transfer all my shares in Bo Corporation to Nian Nian's name. Bo Yensi, do you think all women in the world are like you, believing that money can buy everything? I let go of Lu Jingchuan, walked up to Bo Yensi, and looked down at this once arrogant man. 3 years ago, I begged you to accompany me to my prenatal checkup, and you said you had a meeting. 2 years ago, when Nian Nian had a high fever of 40 degrees, I called you 30 times, and you were watching the aurora with Lin Wn. Back then, did you ever give me a chance? He opened his mouth, his voice trembling. I thought back then that you thought I would never leave. I finished his sentence for him. You thought Shin Qingju was just a brick in the Bo family, to be moved wherever needed. Unfortunately, that brick has now become a wall you can't break through. At that moment, Lin Wn came running from the other end of the corridor, carrying a thermal lunchbox. Her makeup looked weary, and she flinched when she saw me before rushing toward Bo Yensi. Yensi, why are you out here? The doctor said you need to rest. Miss Shin, I beg you, please let Yensi go. He's already in this state. Miss Lin, your acting skills have declined. I took a step back in disgust. Don't stand in my way here. Lu Jingchuan, let's go. I'll take you to the Shin family's private sanatorium. The air here isn't very fresh. All right, sis. Lu Jingchuan cooperatively wrapped his arm around me as we turned to leave. Shin Qingju. Bo Yensi let out a desperate roar. He broke free from Lin Wan's grasp, trying to rush over and grab the hem of my clothes, but his strength failed him, and he fell heavily to his knees on the ground. A dull thud echoed, the sound of knees colliding with something hard. I did not look back. Behind me, Lin Wn was crying and shouting for a doctor, while Bo Yensi kept calling my name over and over again. Once, a mere frown from this man would make my heart ache for hours, but now, listening to his painful gasps, I feel nothing but inner peace. He thinks his suffering the agony of unrequited longing, unaware that it's merely a fraction of what I once endured. Sister, that man is about to break. Lu Jingchuan chuckled softly in my ear. If he breaks, sweep him into the trash heap. I pushed open the hospital doors, the sunlight outside glaring. The Shin Group has no use for damaged goods. The winter night at the harbor was biting, the wind carrying a salty, fishy scent that cut across the face like a knife. Lin Wn had completely lost her mind. Driven by the plagiarism scandal and Bo Yensi's cold indifference, she had used up her last savings, colluded with a few desperate men, and cornered me and Nian Nian in this abandoned dock warehouse. Shin Qingju, aren't you so capable? Aren't you the eldest daughter of the Shin family? Lin Wn held a gleaming, sharp knife in her hand, her entire figure hidden in the flickering shadows of an oil lamp, her features twisted like a demon from hell. If it weren't for you, I would already be Mrs. Bo. You've destroyed everything for me. I was tied to a wooden chair with coarse ropes, my hands bound behind my back, while Nyan Nyan was gagged and placed near a shipping container behind me, but there was no trace of the terror she had expected to see on my face. It's your greed that has destroyed you. I looked at her calmly, my peripheral vision catching the broken window high up on the warehouse wall. Where is Bo Yancy? You went to such lengths to lure him here, just to play out this life or death choice drama, didn't you? Shut up. Lin Wn screamed, pressing the knife tip against my cheek. He'll come. He will definitely come to save me. No, he'll watch you die. At that moment, the warehouse door was violently flung open. Bo Yancy's slender figure appeared in the wind and snow, panting heavily from running, his face so pale from illness it seemed almost translucent. Let them go. Bo Yancy's voice echoed through the empty warehouse, trembling slightly. Lin Wn, I'll give you whatever you want, money, shares, even my life. Just put the knife down. Yancy, you've finally come. Lin Wn chuckled dreamily, then turned the knife to press against my neck. Make a choice. Will you save this woman who ruined the Bo family, or will you save me, your beloved first love? If you choose her, I'll drag her with me into this icy sea. Bo Yancy took a step forward, his gaze sweeping over me before finally locking onto Nyen Nyen. In his eyes, struggle, regret, and a near-masochistic resolve intertwined. I'll trade for them. Bo Yancy suddenly unclenched his fists and walked step by step toward Lin Wn, spreading his arms. I'll be your hostage. Let them go. Don't you hate me for failing to protect you? Then I'll give you my life. Is that enough? Lin Wn froze, the knife in her hand loosening slightly. Bo Yancy turned to look at me, his clear, cold phoenix eyes brimming with tears for the first time. He silently moved his lips, saying, Qingju, I'm sorry. He thought this was a deeply moving act of self-sacrifice, believing he could finally find redemption in what he called rescuing the beauty. But I laughed, a laugh that sounded particularly jarring in this grim warehouse. Bo Yancy, do you think you're so noble? I suddenly stood up, and the tightly bound ropes slipped off like paper. They had been cut by the tiny blade I had hidden in my sleeve earlier. Just as Lin Wn screamed and turned to stab me, I dodged to the side with lightning speed, grabbed her wrist, and twisted it sharply. A crack sound echoed, accompanied by Lin Wan's agonized scream at the same time. The windows around the warehouse shattered instantly, and dozens of Special Forces bodyguards descended on ropes, their red laser sights densely targeting the foreheads of the kidnappers. Don't move, police! Urgent sirens blared from the outside. I drew a specially designed tranquilizer gun from my waist and, without looking back, pulled the trigger on the gang leader who was trying to escape. The gunshot rang out. The man fell all in one smooth motion. Bo Yancy froze in place, maintaining that outstretched arms pose like a comical puppet. He watched as I deftly untied Nyen Nyen's ropes. As I elegantly brushed the dust off my cheongsam, the worry in his eyes turned into sheer absurdity. You had this all planned from the start. His voice trembled. Mr. Bo, I told you, my life doesn't need you to trade for it. I took Nyen Nyen's hand and walked toward the door. As I passed him, I didn't even pause my steps. In the business world, I can corner your Bo group. On the battlefield, I can control these desperados. Your sacrifice is nothing but a burden to me. As Nyan Nyan passed by Bo Yancy, she glanced at him lightly and said, Dad, the book also says that kindness without ability is just causing trouble. Bo Yancy watched the retreating figures of us, mother and son, and listened to Lin Wan's frantic screams as she was taken away by the police. Suddenly, he collapsed onto the cold, damp ground. He had thought that even if I no longer loved him, I would at least hate him. But the reality was that he didn't even qualify to be my opponent. In my world, he had been completely downgraded from a heartbreaker to a useless person. This sense of powerlessness after being downgraded and defeated was more painful to him than death. The door of the court mediation room was tightly shut, the thick soundproofing material blocking out the noise from outside. Inside, the cold fluorescent light shone down on the rectangular negotiation table, the air so oppressive it was almost suffocating. Bo Yancy sat across from me, his once neatly trimmed sideburns now looked somewhat disheveled, and the eyes that had once been so arrogant now held only a deep, unfathomable desolation. Sitting beside him was his mother, the once unassailable Mrs. Bo Chingju. Please, as your mother-in-law, I'm begging you. My mother-in-law had lost all her former air of nobility. Her withered hands gripped the edge of the table tightly, her voice trembling. What happened back then? I was just confused for a moment. I only moved those assets to cover the debts because I saw the Shun family was about to collapse. I did it for the Bo family. If you sue me now, are you trying to send me to prison? I flipped through the case file in my hands, each page documenting evidence of how the Bo family had taken advantage of the situation back then, gradually devouring the Shun family's inheritance. I slowly removed my gold-rimmed glasses, my gaze as cold as frost. Mrs. Bo, the law doesn't care about confusion, only evidence. I pushed a judgment estimate in front of her. Illegally occupying another person's massive property, with an especially huge amount involved, according to the law, you'll likely spend the rest of your life reflecting behind bars. Shun Qingju, she is your mother-in-law. Bo Yanxi suddenly stood up, his voice sharp with excessive anxiety. Do you really have to push things to this extreme, even if you consider Nyan Nyan's sake, or the fact that she is his biological grandmother? I sneered, cutting him off. When she mixed allergens into Nyan Nyan's formula just to keep me at home by making the child sick and prevent me from attending the Shun family board meeting. Did she ever think about being his biological grandmother? Bo Yanxi trembled all over as if struck by lightning. He turned his head, looking at his mother in disbelief. Mom, did you really do such a thing? The old woman's eyes darted away, and her sobbing abruptly ceased. Bo Yanxi, do you think your warm family is maintained by such filthy schemes? I pulled another document from my briefcase and slammed it heavily on the table. I'm not here today to listen to your confessions, I'm here for this. It was the application for termination of custody and visitation rights. Bo Yanxi stared at the words on the page, his breathing suddenly growing rapid. With trembling hands, he flipped through it. Each page was a record of his failures as a father. Missing his child's major surgery because of Lin Wan, causing psychological trauma to the child by staying away from home for long periods, and exposing the child to the threat of a dangerous person like Lin Wan. No, Qingju, you can't take away my right to see Nian Nian. He is my life. Bo Yanxi's eyes were red, his voice almost pleading. I can give up everything. I can sell the Bo family business to repay the Shun family. I beg you, don't take away even my right to see him. You don't deserve it. I stood up, looking down at him from above. Bo Yanxi, when you decided to abandon us, mother and child, for Lin Wan, you had already forfeited your role as a father. Now, you are not only a loser in the business world but also a failure in the eyes of the law. Nian Nian has already signed. He doesn't need a father who only brings danger and pain. He's only 5 years old. What does he understand? Bo Yanxi roared. He knows what love is, and what charity is, and what you've given has always been charity. I pushed back my chair, ready to leave. Seeing this, Mrs. Bo suddenly rushed over, trying to kneel before me in front of everyone. But my bodyguard stopped her. Shun Qingju, you poisonous woman, may you die a horrible death. Seeing that begging was hopeless, the old lady began to curse frantically. I stopped in my tracks, glanced back at her, and then looked at Bo Yanxi, who was sitting in the chair as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Mr. Bo, I forgot to tell you. The Shun Group has fully acquired all of Bo Group's debts. Starting tomorrow, the old mansion you live in will also be seized. Take your mother and go experience what you call the life of ordinary people. I walked out of the mediation room, and the sunlight streamed through the corridor's glass, warm and bright behind me. Bo Yanxi's desperate cries echoed. He finally understood that what he had lost was not just wealth and status, but the person who had once treated him as at the top of the tallest building in the capital, the Shun Group Tower. The roar of the helicopter's rotor blades echoed across the empty helipad. The strong wind whipped up the hem of my black trench coat, making it flutter like a flag. I glanced down at my wristwatch. Today was the day I was taking Nian Nian to the Shun family's overseas headquarters to take over the global business. And it was also the final deadline for the Bo family's old mansion to officially enter the foreclosure auction process. Mom, can we go now? Nian Nian carried his small backpack, his eyes clear and calm. He had no attachment to the surname that represented the Bo family's bloodline. Now, his passport bore the name Shenyan, waiting to say goodbye to an old friend. I turned around and looked toward the only iron door leading to the rooftop. The door was pushed open, thin ink staggered out. The once immaculate suit he wore was now covered in wrinkles. His tie hung loosely around his neck, and his hair was soaked with rain and sweat, plastered to his pale, disheveled face. He was no longer the aloof and dignified Mr. Bo, but a gambler utterly crushed by life. Chingju, don't go. He suddenly fell to his knees on the concrete floor, the sound of his knees hitting the ground still audible amidst the roaring noise. He crawled forward a couple of steps, his hands desperately clawing at the ground, blood even seeping from between his fingers. 10 billion. I'll return that 10 billion to you. No, I'll give you all the remaining land of the Bo family. All the overseas accounts. He lifted his head, tears and rain streaming down his face, his voice hoarse and broken. I beg you, as long as you agree to remarry, as long as you let me stay by Nian Nian's side, even if I have to be the Shen family's driver, or your bodyguard, I'll accept it. I looked at him, so humble and lowly, yet not a single ripple stirred in my heart. Bo Yanci, are you still not awake? I slowly walked up to him, stopping 3 steps away, looking down at him from above. When you gave me that 1 billion back then, you wanted to buy out my dignity, to make room for your white moonlight. At that time, it was your charity as the victor. I bent down, took out the long yellowed but still preserved check from my bag, and with a light flick of my fingers, it fell like a withered leaf beside his trembling hand. Now, you can't even come up with this 1 billion. What you call returning it to me is just a bargaining chip to get me to pull you out of the mud. No, I truly love you. I regret it. Chingju, every night when I close my eyes, I see you cooking porridge for me. I see Nian Nian calling me dad. He broke down in tears, trying to grab the tip of my shoe. I take a step back, my gaze as cold as if I were looking at a piece of scrap industrial waste. Bo Yanci, the 10 billion was the last shred of dignity I left you out of respect for our past as husband and wife. But now, in my eyes, you're not even worth that 10 billion. I point to the magnificent view of the capital below, where half of the orderly high-rise buildings bear the Shen family name. Do you think my life, Shen Qingzhou's life, would still be waiting here for you to turn back? What you missed wasn't just a wife, it was an era you can never hope to reach. Mom, it's time. Nian Nian tugs at my hand, not even glancing at his father on the ground. I take Nian Nian's hand and stride toward the already running helicopter. Shen Qingzhou. Bo Yanci let out a heart-wrenching roar from behind. He tried to stand up and chase after her, but the wind and sand stirred up by the airflow blinded his eyes, causing him to fall heavily to the ground. I sat in the cabin seat and put on the noise-cancelling headphones. The helicopter lifted off the ground, rapidly ascending above the clouds. Looking down through the porthole, Bo Yanci's tiny figure had shrunk into a black dot, appearing especially desolate on the empty rooftop. He would return to the empty Bo family ancestral home, guarding the shattered remnants left behind, spending the rest of his life in endless regret. Meanwhile, Lin Wn and the elderly Mrs. Bo would each face the judgment of the law, the cruelest revenge in this world is not death, but forcing you to watch with a clear mind how you single-handedly destroyed your only salvation, then leaving you to live a long, lonely life. Where to, Chairman Shen? The pilot asked respectfully. I looked at the breaking dawn ahead, a confident and composed smile curling at the corner of my mouth. To the highest point. My story has only just begun. While everything about Bo Yanci has long since rotted away in that rainstorm 3 years ago.